Trump says Bezos is a good guy now, and Amazon says we're not doing this to begin with, or we weren't doing it anyway, or we're not going to do it now, or something like that. Doug Flynn joins us, certified financial planner, co-founder at Flynn Capital Management. Just another day, right? Just another day. But
that's pretty much how everything goes lately.
Can I ask you though? I got to say, my first reaction to this whole thing when I saw Caroline Leavitt going after Amazon because they said, "Oh, we're going to list the impact of tariffs on what people buy." I was like, "Well, we see impacts of things on receipts all the time." I didn't think it would be that big of a deal. But what did you think of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it might actually give a clue as to what they're actually paying for things, because if the tariffs are on the actual price of what they pay, not on the retail price, I don't know that they really want to put that on there. But we've seen those things before with fuel surcharges and whatnot.
Yeah, but if you think a tariff is a sales tax, and it's kind of and that's
another line.
Certainly could say that, and then you say here's the sales tax, or here in this case is the tariff impact.
The problem is, do they take it off in a timely manner? And they rarely do that.
Fair. But so you thought it was political then from Amazon if they were if they were going to do it?
I think this is really to do with their company that competes with Temu on the really less than $20 items, which I think, there's not a lot of room in there. And so I think they were saying, hey, we want to show that this is not us just gouging. And so to compete with Temu and whatnot. And so I think it was isolated to there. And then, of course, it got out and they were saying that's not really a good idea. But that's where this was going to be focused, not across Amazon, the entire company.
Okay, I thought a couple things. We actually started the show with this that came out more than a couple on the economy today weren't great for the consumer. So go through them, whether it's UPS cutting jobs, that obviously is not great. Consumer confidence number, I thought was, 5-year low, recessionary in terms of the outlook on that. So what would you say about the economy with some of the signs we're seeing here?
Well, so the UPS thing is kind of interesting because we like to lump it in with all the news of the day, but this has been going on at UPS for the last couple of years. I mean, they've shed now with this 20,000 about 63,000 jobs in the last 3 years. So it's been, they have to do this to kind of get their house in order. Their stock has not done much at all in the last couple of years, and they have some issues. And this is anytime you have a really big customer make up a lot of your revenue, the risk is they start to do it themselves, and now you rely too much on them. So they've got to adjust and get their house in order, and I think they will do that. But the backdrop of all the other stuff that's going on, yes, China is a big revenue part of UPS. It's about 11% of their entire revenue. So it's going to impact them. And that's really sort of as a precursor to all the other companies that really do rely on China in some way, shape, or form, for even the small companies that deliver for Amazon. 60% of their sales at Amazon are through these small independent companies that rely on China and all these other companies. So you don't really know the impact, and that's why everyone's worried about recession if this really goes into effect. But we've been talking about recession. We talked about it a couple of years ago, and it didn't happen. So we'll see if it actually happens. But there's definitely going to be a slowdown in GDP, and people might see a little bit of the price increases.
Which I think is what, like GM said, we're not going to have a forecast because we have no idea what's going to happen. By the way, President Trump just made it official that he's signing that EO, the executive order, to kind of give him a little bit of a break, the automakers, on tariffs.
Yeah.
And maybe that helps, Doug, as a final point before the bell here on Wall Street. But again, it adds to the fact that we just don't know what's going to happen here.
Right. Well, that is a good thing for the automakers because this gives them a chance to get their parts and supplies in order. And a lot of companies, you have to make decisions as a business owner. Do you pass along these costs if you have them? Do you reduce your profits and just, eat it, or some combination? Or do you pull a lot of these purchases ahead so that you can stock up and offset it with the hope that it'll go away in a couple of months? I think that's the big play.
These people from the company Blend are big Doug Flynn fans. They liked everything he had to say, and there they are, cheering him on from the New York Stock Exchange. Thank you, Doug. And it's 4 o'clock.